Chelsea, I learned so much from you, just mainly, I guess, first of all, like I was going to begin by telling my story, which is in here, but I'm not going to do that because you suggested that we find places within the piece that are turning points and pivot points, and we'll save this massive volume of my life's journey for another time. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so what I would like to offer today is a sort of overview in which I present some challenges that I faced at each stage of my life, and then sort of what helped me to embrace type 1 diabetes at each stage. So I'll begin by saying that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 11, and I'm now, okay? Ha 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 again. I was raised where a woman never tells her age, but I am a proud 36 years old. So that means that I've had type 1 diabetes for 25 years. And Chelsea, like you mentioned, I want to begin my story, again, being diagnosed at 11, by sort of taking you to the point in time where I experienced a shift. When there was a change, a landmark change for me. So what I'd like to do, bear with me for just a moment, is take you back to when I was 21. And in order to do that, I'm gonna ask that you join me as I become more of who I was at 21, this turning point in my life. So, right, as Chelsea is saying, there are different points in our stories, and we're different people at different points in our stories. And it's important to recognize and reflect and see who you were at each period of time so that you can be honest with yourself about where you are and how you can embrace diabetes at each stage. Okay, so I'm 21. No, wait, my posture's worse. Okay, and let's talk about the tastes and the sights and the five senses that I'm experiencing during this pivot point in my life. Well, my mouth is dry, because I'm nervous, and my heart is pounding because I'm about to speak something personal to my heart, and I don't smell much of anything. It's a dimly lit open mic room, and I come up to the mic and I say, this is, I think, a big declaration that I will maintain. You see, I've decided that I'm through with waiting, letting my life sit marinating, thinking that something or someone will turn up the fire and then suddenly I'll be alive, enlightened, and inspired. You see, I can't just think and feel and right away cross my fingers and hope that tomorrow's a better day. You see, I think it's like I've grown accustomed to thinking vaguely that there's a something, a someone, a force I couldn't name, anything outside of me where I could place blame. It's like there's this big something that haunts me, taunts me, ails me constantly, whirls me, twirls me, smoothie blend swirls me. It's like you add some clutter and some ambiguity, a little bit of, is it you or is it me? A dash of denial so that I don't see the truth. It's like I've just been avoiding growing out of my youth. I've been searching and struggling, trying to grasp a concept, a thought that can save me, unenslave me, finally enable me to ignite the cessation of this obscure personal analysis that has resulted in nothing more than progression paralysis. But life is too short to waste my mind. A fantastic mechanism and one of my greatest gifts. It's like, I think, therefore I am. And that's a portrait of me as an able, I've got the potential to keep it stable, blessed individual cultivating and perpetuating her existence, no longer snubbing adulthood with tenacious resistance. And breath is sometimes hard to find. It's hard to say, Diana, take the time, turn off the drama and stop. You know, this is your life. You have the starring role. And I admit I like the sound of my own voice, but I got no real right to complain if I make my reality dramatic by choice. And there's no big something that I can't escape or find. And if at 21 years old or ever I resign and choose to throw away my time, then I'm the one who's handed laziness and self-pity a big gluttonous portion of syrupy satisfaction. Because, you know, it's like I can't really get what I want in life unless I'm honest, ask for help, and take the necessary action. So 21-year-old me finds a pivot point. And I share that with you because, like Chelsea said, it was a turning point for me, but also because as my slide said, I think for me, one of the most important things about type 1 diabetes has been embracing the fact that it's in my story. We all have different relationships to type 1 diabetes and to diabetes, but it's in my life. And so I just want to empower everyone to recognize that if it means something to you, that you exist first and diabetes is in your story. So yeah, now what I want to share is just sort of like the different stages of my life where I've had challenges and then how I've embraced having type 1 diabetes during those different stages, in hopes that it will help you if there's someone in your life who is living with diabetes at that time, or it may help you directly, whatever your relationship to type 1 might be. So between the ages of 11 and 15, right, some of the apparent challenges, but ones that were personal to me, were going through puberty. The newness of diabetes and this overwhelming desire to fit in. So the types of things that helped me to embrace having type 1 diabetes during that age range was a really kind-hearted and knowledgeable healthcare team. I guess I'm like a lot of people in that I had an endocrinologist who didn't have such a big heart and was very smart. I imagine he had a big heart. Honestly, what do I know? But it came across to little 11-year-old me like this was a disease, and if I had the right information, I'd do the right thing. But there were a few nurse practitioners and I guess diabetes educators who approached me as if they approached me and taught me about diabetes from the place where I was. They met me where I was, and that was 11. So I think that if you are a young person with diabetes, try to ask for help from your parents or your community, your peers, or whoever it is that is a trusted adult in your life, to outfit yourself with a team of people who are going to acknowledge the breadth and complexity and difficulty of what it is you're trying to do. I also had a really great peer group at camp. So I went away to a type 1 diabetes sleepaway camp. So I think that was definitely a privilege, but it's something that if you're a parent and can provide a digital support group at this time for your child or someone in your family living with type 1 diabetes, that was a great source of help and support, and allowed me to embrace this new thing into my life. And then also the fact that my parents were such a big part of the care and education. I became 15 and I kind of wanted to snub my parents, but in retrospect, the fact that they were still part of learning and trying to make sure that I understood and could manage this condition to the best of my teenage ability, that was something that was really fantastic and allowed me to embrace this, living with this. Okay, between the ages of 16 and 21, I would say the biggest challenges that I faced in embracing type 1 diabetes were around, okay, it's probably no surprise, but the temptations of substances and a teenage lifestyle. Food and dating and sexuality were all challenges that were now present in my life more so than before, and were things that I honestly had to address as a teenager. And also this idea of I was on my way to adulthood. So I think that there are a lot of additional pressures that people between the ages of 16 and 21 face when it comes to living with and embracing their type 1 diabetes. Everyone's experience is unique. I'm just sharing mine in hopes that if you are someone who is going through this stage at this time, I can be a source of hope and light. And if you're dealing or working with someone who is in that age group, that you can also have a deeper understanding of what might be going through their head. Some of the things that helped me during that stage were one-on-one time with my parents. Again, as much as I tried to push, I was a teenager, as much as I tried to push them away, they were consistent and they were present, and I'm so grateful for that. And we all have different ways of creating family. So you don't have to be a parent. You might be an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, whatever supportive and loving family you can build to really be present for a person with type 1 diabetes, please do that. And another thing that helped me during the ages of 16 and 21 was therapy. So, you know, if that is something that's available to you, it might be hard to open up because diabetes is a big weight and it doesn't go away. But if that's an available tool for you to utilize, it was definitely something that helped me to embrace this condition. Between the ages of 21 and 26, getting old, huh? Between the ages of 21 and 26, some of the biggest challenges that I faced in embracing my type 1 diabetes were living abroad, managing diabetes at work, and as you've heard from other people, the cost of supplies. Life abroad was complex because I was in a new place. Fortunately, it was, I spent time abroad studying in London, and later I spent time studying in Mozambique. So in London, I can just speak English and you know, navigate with a fair amount of ease. But again, I think for me, I'm someone where newness is overwhelming and scary. So that always presents a challenge. Diabetes at work, I think was something that was challenging because I, at that time, was working part-time jobs. And so there was a lot of like flexibility and inconsistency. And we all know that routine is really paramount to helping to manage diabetes. So that was a challenge for me. And then the cost of supplies, right? Because when you age off of your parents' insurance, all of a sudden you are a young person who thinks that you knew how to take on the world with these out-of-pocket costs that are beyond what you've ever conceived of. And that's not everyone's experience, but that was my experience. So some of the things that helped me during that very challenging stage of my life were having a really close mentor, someone who I could confide in and who was there for me and let me talk about whatever it was that I needed support with, diabetes included. Another thing that was really helpful for me to embrace my diabetes at that time was a good group of core friends. And so I think that's probably more important now for so many of us, right? Because we're living apart from each other. So rely on one another and turn to each other and provide support where you can. And I also think that another thing that was really beneficial to me and allowed me to embrace my diabetes at this time was having goals outside of diabetes, right? It just sort of harkens back to me saying that I am the starring role of my life and diabetes is in it, but without me, there's no diabetes in this life. So when I was in that age range, I had a lot of hard times in high school. And so I went to undergrad later than some, and I was determined to graduate, and I was determined to seek out opportunities for graduate school. So having these goals that made me feel more like I was just like everybody else, those were tremendously helpful. All right, we got 2 more stages left in life, and I guess 2 minutes to go. I can do it. Some of the challenges between the ages of 26 and 30, toxic relationships, and the stress of managing grad school. Toxic relationships, I'm sure you can understand what those means. If you've got people giving you bad juju and bad energy in your life, get them out. Diabetes is hard enough without people bringing you down. And as Chelsea was saying, right, like you matter, your story matters. Take ownership of yourself, find your center, and only let people in who are good for you. Managing stress. We all know that our blood sugars go up and down if we're more stressed, but some of the things that have helped me or that helped me during that time were living alone. I think that it gave me time to reflect and really put myself out into the world as an independent human being, and keeping in touch with my parents, but doing it from a distance. I think that for me, one of the really valuable things about being an adult living with diabetes is my relationship to my parents as a separate human being, and everyone's different with that, but it's an ever evolving thing. Okay, and so then from, let's say 30 to now, where I find myself with T1 International, some of the biggest challenges that I feel like I'm facing are the tired relentlessness of diabetes, having new health concerns, right? Like I'm getting older and that's the reality of life. And so I think there's stresses and thinking about weight management and wanting to make sure that I'm the healthiest that I can be for the longest amount of time possible. Those things are hard. And also onboarding my life partner. I've been with the same wonderful gentleman for almost 10 years now. And so I think it's a next stage of life where it's really important for the conversations about diabetes therapies to become more than like, oh, did you check your blood sugar? And for me personally, really about a deeper understanding of the condition. What has helped me to manage during this time? T1 International, this space. And as Chelsea was saying, feeling like I'm ready to tell some of my story, or at least figure out my story. Yeah, and Dr. Nagra yesterday, I believe, was talking about raising public awareness and all being part of this broader movement together. I think that that's something I just want to end on, that, you know, as other people have said, you are the center of your story. And so if we can find these things to connect with people who don't have type 1 that we really just all understand, we are going to change the world. Thank you.